So I want to talk about the disincentives that the government offers in terms of creating and how a heavy tax burden disincentivizes people from working, which might be part of the point if you want a communist slash socialist society. I live in Mexico and we bought a condo to Airbnb out, and I want to show you the amount of money that will actually hit our pocketbooks after all the work that we did in terms of renovating the place, all of the expenses that we took in terms of getting it into rentable condition. And my wife made it really, really nice as well. So we have an Airbnb booking. The total that I billed was 30,000 pesos, which is about $1,600, $1,650, something in that realm. And of this, the total that will be billed to the customer is 40,500, which means that in an ideal world, I could have directly connected with them and received that amount from them. Instead of this, 4,235 is a guest service fee for Airbnb. Okay, they're doing something. They are helping to create the bridge and the payment methods and some security. I don't necessarily mind that. So here are the extra deductions. There is a 900 peso 3% service fee. The VAT tax withheld, 4,800, 16%. Then the Mexican income tax on top of that is 6,000. So of the total billed to the customer of 40,535, we will be receiving 23,100 pesos. So a little bit more than 50%. We are retaining. So on top of that, over the half month that the guests are staying, we have to pay every month $500 in HOA fees. That's an extra 9,000 pesos approximately. So that takes it down to 14,000. You can argue that you should be able to cut that in half, but that's really what we're left with because you don't rent the house out every single day of the month. And then you have to pay electric, you have to pay internet, and you have to pay US taxes. So what you're left over with is basically nothing. You are left over for this month. Let's just assume that you can rent it out for half of the remaining days of the month. You're left over with something like 20%, 25% maybe of the total that was billed to the customer. This is how the state squashes you. And of course, Mexicans have every incentive to try to charge cash. There's a lot of other property owners that try to hook up with people directly and avoid all of the Mexican taxes. Or you can get a Mexican tax ID, which is a fairly cumbersome process, and you will only be charged 4%, but then you still have to pay Mexican taxes on top of that. You have to hire an accountant in order to minimize that, is what I'm told. I haven't done that yet. But regardless, it completely disincentivizes people to work. And when they get the CBDC in and everything is going to be transferred digitally and they outlaw cash, this avenue to try to get more money into a private citizen's pocketbook is just going to be confiscated by the state. And you are going to be essentially a slave of the state working for base wages while they siphon off everything and give it to causes that they feel are worthy, like diversity, equity, and inclusion. These people must be paid $400,000, but somebody that produces, that fixes up a property and then wants to rent it out and wants to show people how to have a good time in the area like myself get squashed. Or the military-industrial complex, or to pay for Pfizer's jab $100 billion in taxpayer money that didn't do anything, just gave people heart attacks and myocarditis. And then you have to give away $11 million to Pakistan to pay for gender studies classes. It's just absurd how big the state is getting and how they are squashing the average person. But then when you have robots enforcing the law of those lefties in power that want to tell you how you must live, what you can and cannot say, how much of your income you have to pay in taxes while they grift off the government, like Elizabeth Warren getting paid $200,000 a year and somehow being worth something like $70 million, I believe that I heard, or Nancy Pelosi, who you know about, same thing there, although her husband has an investment firm. I wonder where he gets his good ideas from and how he's able to predict exactly what the government was going to do during her time as Speaker. Look, it's a very difficult proposition to make money in this world. If you're able to save $1 million, you've done something unimaginable. But you must do all that you can to minimize your tax burden, including getting the RFC number. But even with that, it's not worth it when I have to pay on top of that the US government and I have to pay the HOA. There is absolutely no money in Airbnb in Mexico unless you're a local who knows all of the tax loopholes and does not have to pay extra to another government, because essentially I'm paying double to the governments, and then I have to pay Airbnb and everything else. So just remember that the government continues to squash and will gain more control with artificial intelligence. And that is also why we need Bitcoin, because this is a way to circumvent these avenues. And I can pay peer-to-peer, and the government has no control over that. And as Bitcoin becomes more anonymized, which is what a lot of people don't understand, it becomes even more valuable. Peace. I hope that this brought you something and that you learned a little bit. Peace out.